Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has fled the country.
Syria, where rebels may be on the verge of toppling President Bashar al-Assad's regime.
Hi everyone, welcome. This is Najma Minhas. The fall of Assad's regime caught us all off guard. In the US, the attention was actually on President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet picks and a high-profile manhunt that was taking place for the United Healthcare CEO's killer. Globally, the attention was on Russia, Iran and Israel. Bashar al-Assad, who stood beside Turkey's President Erdogan just last month at the OIC summit to discuss the Israel-Palestine issue, was overthrown in a matter of days. What's even more surprising is that the Western press and countries gave a very tepid response to the takeover by the Syrian rebels, who are led by the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS. The HTS leader is Abu Mohammad al-Jolani, who fought alongside al-Qaeda in Iraq before returning to Syria to set up what is basically a branch of the Islamic State. Over the past decade, though, Jolani has sought to rebrand himself, and the group is said to have severed ties with the Islamic State and al-Qaeda and worked with more moderate rebel groups in Syria. Now, this convenient rebranding has been done to get support from both Turkey and indirectly the United States. And within the last couple of days, he's also rebranded himself as well. He's gone from having a long, grizzly beard to one that's been neatly trimmed, and he's removed his turban and now wearing clean fatigues. He's already changed his name as well, from being known as the Abu Mohammad al-Jolani to now he's gone back to his real name, Ahmed al-Shara, which nobody knows about. After the takeover on December the 9th, he also forbid the group's fighters from interfering in women's dress. He gave statements to reassure the Christian and the Druze minorities, stressing that their rights will be respected. And in a message to the Kurds, he's declared, "Diversity is our strength." The HTS group is still listed as a terrorist group by the United Nations, EU and the US, but the Biden administration is already considering delisting it so as to allow formal dialogue to take place with it. How does talking to a group not much better than al-Qaeda make any sense in any world? What do you think about HTS being rebranded for international legitimacy? Do you think it's genuine or strategic? The Assad regime's rapid and unexpected collapse has come during a turbulent period for the Middle East that started last year after the Hamas attacks on Israel on October 7, 2023. This triggered a chain of events which basically have reshaped the region's balance of power, with the deaths of the Hamas and Hezbollah top leadership, and now Assad's overthrow. Some are even calling it an earthquake in the regional order. And there are two clear winners on this chessboard, Turkey and Israel. Please subscribe, like and share the video if you enjoy the content on this channel. Your engagement will help the channel to grow. So Assad's gone, and what does it mean for Syria? Is it a chance for stability, or are we heading into another chaos like Libya? Do share with me your thoughts. There is also the role of an important pipeline deal that's not really being talked much about in the mainstream media, but was incentivizing Turkey. More on that later in the vlog. Israel has used the situation to swiftly seize control of the demilitarized UN-controlled buffer zone inside Syria along the Golan Heights. It's entered Syrian territory for the first time in approximately half a century. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that his country's forces would remain in that area until Israel's security can be guaranteed. In his words, the collapse of the Syrian regime has created a vacuum on Israel's border and in the buffer zone. He said that Israel will not permit jihadi groups to fill that vacuum and threaten Israeli communities. Israel's recent actions in the buffer zone have been criticized by the UN and France, among others. But as we know, after Israel's actions against the Palestinians in the past 14 months, they don't give a hoot to international law or their views. Israel has also conducted hundreds of strikes in Syria, destroying both what they claim the Syrian Navy and striking chemical weapon sites and facilities, housing facilities and rockets, among other targets such as fighter jets and drones. Assad's fall is a major blow for Iran and its strategy of forward defense in the region. Iran's strategic Shia crescent now is no more. It's also depriving Tehran of a principal overground route, which used to exist, to its most significant proxy, Hezbollah in Lebanon. And this obviously directly benefits Israel. It also means that the mechanism with which the Iranian government used for decades to play off Israel indirectly while not coming face to face with them is now very weak and will take a long time to resuscitate, if at all. This year, that strategy has already been battered, with the two countries coming face to face that they've had in April and then in October. Israel will now be hoping for a similar standoff under the President-elect Trump, bringing about a destruction of Iran as well. For Israel, it will have to be done quickly while Iran is still weak and the president is just come into office. So 2025 will not be an easy year for this region. Now, coming to Turkey, it has played a complex role in the Syrian conflict since its beginning in 2011. Its involvement is shaped by security concerns, humanitarian concerns, but most importantly, geopolitical ambitions, with what many term as Erdogan's desire to give Turkey the importance it had under the Ottoman era. Overthrow of the Assad regime has meant that Turkey has now supplanted Russia and Iran as the dominant outside power in Syria. Tensions between Turkey and Syria existed long since the 20th century. Syria has historically claimed land in Turkey, which Turkey's Hatay province, as it's known, which was annexed by Turkey in 1939 after a French brokered agreement. Syria still claims that land as being part of its nation and shows it on all its maps. Similarly, the two countries also have had water disputes, water wars which will become increasingly important in this century given climate change. The Euphrates River, which is critical for both rivers, has been a point of contention due to Turkey's construction of dams under its southeastern Anatolia project, particularly the Ataturk Dam. Syria has accused Turkey of reducing water flow downstream to Syria, which has harmed Syrian agriculture and its water access. However, recent differences with Bashar al-Assad's Syria and Turkey under Erdogan have stemmed from several factors. One underlying factor even being the religious leanings of the AKP versus the relatively secular Ba'athist party under Assad. In 2011, the AKP party aligned itself with the broader wave of the Arab Spring movements that were happening in the region, which aimed to topple those authoritarian regimes, including the Assad region. Erdogan at the time publicly criticized Assad for the brutal suppression of dissent and showed himself and Turkey as the moral advocate for the Syrian people. Now, with Assad out of the way and Iran strategically weaker, Turkey's regional leadership aspirations have been significantly strengthened. Over the past decade, Turkey has provided support to various opposition groups aiming to overthrow Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. It supplied them with weapons, training, and logistical aid. Now, ostensibly, Turkey's primary focus was on northern Syria, where it empowered groups aligned with its interests while curbing the influence of Kurdish factions that control that region. It has a significant military presence in northern Syria, controlling areas like Afrin, Idlib, and parts of Aleppo, which is exactly where the HTS held power, and Turkey is widely believed to have given the green light to the group's offensive, though it is officially still denying the involvement. A major driver of Turkey's involvement in Syria has been driven largely by the concerns it had over the Syrian Kurdish militia, the People's Protection Unit, the YPG as it's known, which it sees very closely linked to the PKK, which is a group fighting for Kurdish autonomy in Turkey. And the fear is that Kurdish autonomy in northern Syria could embolden the separatist movements within Turkey. In the 1980s and the 1990s, the Syrians gave PKK sanctuary, which really strained their relations with Turkey at the time. The PKK's leader, Abdullah Öcalan, also operated from Syria until 1998, when Turkey literally had to threaten Syria with military action unless it expelled him. Turkey has launched multiple military operations over the past decade to counter the influence that the YPG had including creating a buffer zone along its border. Following Assad's removal now, Turkish-backed the SNA forces have intensified operations and have even captured territory from the YPG. Turkey is determined to neutralize what it perceives as a significant security threat. And the US support for the SDF and therefore the YPG has also been a major thorn in the past 1 decade in the relationship between the two countries. Immediately after Assad left, Ankara has expressed its support for Syria's territorial integrity and has started diplomatic efforts to ensure that any new Syrian government does not permit the YPG to operate near its border. It's already reopened its embassy in Damascus and signaled that it is ready to engage with the emerging Syrian authorities and influence the post-Assad political landscape. Turkish officials are actively participating in discussions with the United States and the Arab League diplomats, emphasizing the need that the new Syrian government has to respect minority rights and prevent the resurgence of terrorist groups. Another driver has been that in the last 10 years during the crisis, Turkey has hosted over millions of Syrian refugees, currently numbered around 3.6 million, which is amongst the largest number globally. This has actually shaped its domestic and foreign policies. The refugee influx has placed significant economic and social strain on Turkey, which have intensified Ankara's animosity towards Assad the past decade. Controversially, it was also paid $6 billion by the EU to stop Syrian refugees from entering EU borders and to keep them within the country itself. It also was said to have used some areas in northern Syria to house these refugees to reduce its own burden. Now, with Assad's ousting, it has spurred a significant refugee movement already, with many Syrians in Turkey eager to go back home. Hundreds have gathered at the border crossings, prompting Turkey to reopen a third crossing to manage the flow. Finally, coming to that little-remembered pipeline I mentioned earlier. The Qatar-Turkey pipeline, which was proposed in 2009, was to go through Syria, and it's long been a subject of tension between Turkey and Syria as Bashar al-Assad refused to accept it, and Turkey was desperate for it. Now the landscape has been transformed. The pipeline would have transported Qatari natural gas from its North Dome field through Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, and then Turkey, and eventually going on to Europe. This 1,500-kilometer pipeline would give Europe access to Gulf gas, potentially challenging Russia's dominance in the European gas market and its concerns over energy security, which were essential, especially after, at the time, Russia took over in Crimea in 2014, and they've become even more important after the Ukrainian invasion in 2022. It's believed that Bashar al-Assad rejected the Qatar-Turkey pipeline proposal in 2009 under pressure from Russia, who obviously sought to maintain its energy monopoly in Europe and avoid competition from Qatari gas. Qatari gas traveling via LNG tankers is far more expensive and make it much less economically feasible. The onset of the Syrian civil war in 2011 further complicated the project's feasibility, as the proposed route would pass through obviously now a conflict zone, which raised security and logistical concerns. Turkey is now going to benefit from this pipeline if it goes ahead in a number of ways, including it would have collected an estimated $300 million to $1 billion in transit fees. Turkey is a major natural gas consumer and it imports nearly all its gas. A pipeline from Qatar would diversify Turkey's suppliers and, of course, is expected to lower its own gas import costs. And finally, hosting that pipeline would stimulate Turkey's energy sector, creating jobs and boosting related industries such as the construction and logistic industry. Most importantly, that pipeline would strengthen Turkey's ambitions to become a regional energy hub. It would be controlling key transit routes for natural gas flowing towards Europe. It would give Turkey an important geopolitical and economic security leverage on the Europeans. So Turkey has now a lot to gain with Assad's removal. Thank you for getting this far and giving me your time. Do give me your thoughts on how you see geopolitics playing out in Syria post-Assad's removal. And if you're fascinated by these twists in the Middle East as I am, please do hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications to stay updated with the latest events. Have a great day.